Oke, bismillah.
Takut. Aduh, bertele-tele Kak, usah wes.
Lebih ke itu aja Bun, langsung kayak challenge-nya apa, misal
Langsung
kamu
aja
kurang
apa challenge-nya?
ilmu.
Hey everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Kali ini aku mau ngajak kalian untuk latihan wawancara LPDP bareng aku. Formatnya akan aku buat semirip mungkin seperti wawancara LPDP ku tahun lalu. Jadi wawancaranya ini online via Zoom, di mana aku akan role play sebagai pewawancara LPDP-nya dan sebagai pendaftar LPDP atau yang diwawancarai adalah temanku Fatia Fairuza. Dia adalah pemegang LOE dari Columbia University untuk Human Rights Studies. Oke, tanpa berlama-lama, kita langsung next aja ke sesi wawancaranya ya.
Hello, Fatia.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. My name is Celine, and today I will be interviewing you for the LPDP scholarship application process. So, are you ready? Okay. First, can you
Yes.
please introduce yourself?
Okay. Okay, good afternoon. Please let me introduce myself. My name is Fatia Fairuza. You can call me Fatia. I pursued my undergraduate studies at Ritsumeikan Asia Pacific University in Japan, in majoring international relations. And I have also been accepted to the Master of Arts candidate at Columbia University in the city of New York, studying in human rights program.
First, I will ask about your personal life, if that's okay. Are you already married?
No, not yet. I am not married.
So, do you have a boyfriend?
Yes, I do have a boyfriend.
Do you have any siblings?
Yes, I in fact have 4 siblings and I am the oldest. I have 2
Oh.
younger brothers and 2 younger sisters.
Can you tell me what your parents do for a living?
Oh, okay. Okay, so my dad works for the government, especially in the tax office in Serang, Banten, and my mom owns a travel company. So she usually go abroad to make a tour for the clients.
Wow, a travel company. That must be very hard with the COVID-19 pandemic, right?
Yes, it's true. Yeah, it was hard during the pandemic.
Okay. Okay, so now I will ask about your previous studies. I see here that you studied your bachelor's in Japan, right?
Yes.
And you've also had many experiences with student exchange. So, what motivates you to study abroad?
Okay. So the very reason why I want to study abroad is because I want to learn more. Because I believe that in order to learn, we have to be able to learn from anywhere and at any time. So I believe that I don't want to limit my opportunities by studying only in Indonesia, for example. So that's why I always seek new experiences and new challenges. That's why I have the motivations to study abroad.
Can you tell me, have you ever faced any discrimination while studying abroad?
Yes, unfortunately, I have been faced with discriminations when I'm studying abroad. When I went exchange to Spain during my high school, I was forced to remove my hijab during school time. And if not, they would expel me from the school. I told them already that this was a part of my identity as a Muslim, but they would not compromise this situation. So because of that, I didn't want to stay silent. I wanted to stand up for my rights because it is my rights to get an educations that I am entitled to, despite the hijab that I'm wearing. So I created a petition at Change.org with the title "Asking Fatia to Remove Her Hijab is Discrimination." The petition was pretty successful as I received 3,600 plus signatures over only one night. And I believe that those movement that I created have created a bold impressions to everyone in the world that education should not be discriminating anyone.
Okay. Um, so I also see here that you already have a letter of acceptance from Columbia University, right? So can you
Yes,
tell
that's
me how
correct.
did you get it?
Okay. So even though I do not have a prior professional experience, but I would like to consider myself as an activist in human rights, particularly in the rights to education. So because of that, I curated my personal statement based on the previous experience that I have been doing throughout my undergraduate studies, from my academics, as well as my English ability, as well as my research ability, because Columbia University, especially in the program that I applied for, asked for a writing sample. So I submitted all of those requirements. And additionally, I also showed my experience as I have been developing my own organization to advocate for equal rights to education called Shape Your Life Indonesia.
Oh, so you have your own organization. Can you tell me a
Yes,
bit about it?
Yes, I've been developing it since 2020. So I first created that during my internship at a social media company in Surabaya. And during my interview, the founder kind of encouraged me to create my own organization or community because he believed that I am potential in creating that community instead of being just an internship student. So that's why I created that organization. The very reason why I created that was because during my high school, the moment I told my teacher and my friends that I wanted to pursue my education abroad, they had this kind of misperceptions that studying abroad is too expensive, and then it's very hard to achieve, and it's not for people who came from small cities like me, because I was enrolled in a public school in Sidoarjo. So that's why I wanted to encourage every person, especially every student in Indonesia, even though they came from small cities, they are entitled to the rights to get the full high quality of education, for example, by studying abroad.
Okay, so you just graduated this year, right?
Yes, I will be attending my graduation ceremony this September, but I
Oh, that's
already finished everything.
so why did you choose to directly get a master's degree instead of working first?
Okay. So since I've been developing Shape Your Life Indonesia, I believe that I need to develop it more quickly, because Shape Your Life Indonesia is an institution to advocate for the rights to education. And because my goal is to develop that organization as an institution that could, let's say, collaborate with governments in order to send more potential Indonesians to get a higher quality of educations, I believe that pursuing master's degree as soon as I can would be optimal in order to advance my organization. Other than that, the program that I'm enrolled in, which is the human rights program at Columbia, does not require the students to have minimum years of working professionally. So that's why I decided to go directly to pursue my master's degree.
Okay. Why did you choose Columbia University?
Okay, based on my research, I have researched actually a lot of universities around the world, but because my focus is human rights, especially rights to education, which belongs to the socio-economic rights field, the only country that upholds or that offers that field is only at the US, because if I look at Australia or the UK, the human rights program that they offered is human rights to life or human rights during war or conflict, which is not the field that I wanted to study. So therefore, I researched that it has been offered in many universities in the US, especially in Columbia University, where it has Human Rights Institute. So I believe that it has a lot of resources that I will be gaining from that university.
So you're saying there's absolutely no other universities in no other countries which has the program Human Rights to Education?
Yes, I believe that there is no other university outside the US that offers the specific courses that I'm looking for, which is advocacy in advocacy in socioeconomic rights. It is exclusively only offered at Columbia University, as I've been doing my research.
Are you sure? Because I think
Yes,
that
I am sure, ma'am.
there are many institutions in Europe with great programs for human rights.
Yes, indeed, it is. There are a lot of universities in Europe that has human rights studies program, but the university in Europe more concerned about the human rights to life or about human rights law, which belongs to the masters of law, which I am not eligible to apply because I did not graduate from the
Okay.
Bachelor of Law.
Okay. You said that your interest was in education, right? So why did you choose
Yes.
human rights as your field of study instead of maybe education?
Okay. Indeed, my focus is education, but the thing that I've been working on is the human rights to education instead of the curriculum or the education system itself. So my goal is to ensure that every student in Indonesia has their rights to pursue high quality of educations. How did I do that? So through Shape Your Life Indonesia, I have been empowering students all around Indonesia to, for example, prepare for their skills to be prepared in the 21st world centuries, or even prepared to get acceptance letter from the university that they wanted to apply for. Until today, we have sent more than 16 students from small cities in Indonesia, namely Pekanbaru, Goa, and Pontianak, to study abroad with scholarship with our free mentorship program. And in the future, I envision to work together closely with schools in starting from East Java region, as we have established connection with Mr. Emil Dardak, the Vice Governor of East Java, as well as the Ministry of Education in Indonesia, so we could expand our empowerment to everyone in Indonesia.
Okay. So do you think that education abroad is better than education in Indonesia?
I think it is not necessarily better, but I believe that it will. I believe that education abroad could provide some education or some materials that we could not get in Indonesia, because I believe that education abroad, especially in the developed countries, they would have more advanced technologies to teach students, for example, in engineering fields, or in doctor, or in public health, for example. So I believe that in some developed countries, the educations are better than the one provided in Indonesia. But that is also the very reason why we need to study abroad, so that we can teach the things that we learned during our study abroad to develop the students in Indonesia.
Well, that is if you do return to Indonesia, right? What if you are offered maybe a job as a teacher or by your professor over at Columbia? Will you accept?
I don't think I will accept, because my goal right now is to expand Shape Your Life Indonesia. And as the founder and as the president, I have the responsibility to come back to Indonesia and develop that organizations. But maybe that offer, I could say that we could make a potential collaborations in the future. But my goal after graduations and my high priority is to come back to Indonesia and develop that Shape Your Life Indonesia.
I see that you have no research experience in your CV, and yet you choose to apply for masters, which will definitely need research skills. How will you overcome this problem?
Okay, so I believe that even though I have not published any of my research, throughout my 4 years of undergraduate life majoring in international relations, I have been learning so much on how to conduct and produce a good research paper. And in fact, right now I've also been recruited by the UNOCHRC research project in Indonesia for 2 years, which is funded by Toyota Foundations. And other than that, I have also submitted my research paper to Columbia University as my writing sample. And as I have been accepted, I believe that I have acquired the knowledge and the skills to conduct a research in order to overcome the research challenges that I would face during my master's program.
Can you tell me about your plan for your master's thesis?
Okay, for my master's thesis, as I've been doing with Shape Your Life Indonesia through advocacy in fulfilling the rights to education, and after doing consultations with the professor that I wanted to work with during my study at Columbia University, I decided to write upon the role of advocacy in fulfilling the rights to education in international human rights law.
You already have any supervisor for your thesis?
Yes, I have conducted a research and I decided to work with Dr. Falisa Tibbets from Columbia University, as her research field is similar to me, which is advocacy and the rights to education.
So have you already contacted this Professor Tibbets?
Yes, I've already contacted her through emails, and we have also one-time Zoom meeting talking about my research interest.
How will your thesis contribute to Indonesia?
Okay, as nowadays there are many education institutions are emerging in Indonesia, I believe that I can make use of my thesis on how I could empower or encourage those education institutions to actually work with government officials in Indonesia in order to fulfill the international human rights law criteria that is set in the treaties. Or we can also, or I can also distribute the characteristics or the criterias that needs to be completed by each country, and discuss what each education institutions can do in order to work together to achieve that goal.
Okay. What is your plan after you graduate from Columbia?
So after I graduate from Columbia, I will go back to Indonesia and expand my organization. So first of all, the things that I wanted to do is definitely reach out to schools or make new partnerships with school at East Java region. And then I wanted to create a new program, which is called Muda Mengajar, where it would allow students, high school students and undergraduate students, to be able to teach their knowledge in rural parts of Indonesia. That knowledge is not limited to certain knowledge, but I believe that right now, digital literacy is very important in order to survive in the modern world. Well, I believe that digital literacy in rural areas are still lacking. So I believe that high school students or even undergraduate students in Indonesia who have the will to contribute or to teach their knowledge about digital literacy or English to the rural parts in Indonesia can have the opportunity to do that. Because until today, the only opportunity to reach out to rural students in Indonesia is only Indonesia Mengajar, and there are also some kampus mengajar opportunities that are offered by each university, like for example, University of Indonesia Mengajar. But however, I wanted to expand those opportunities to high school students as well, because I believe that teaching should not be limited by their age. If they are capable, then we should give that opportunity for them who wants to teach and contribute.
What will be the indicators for this program to be successful? Your Muda Mengajar program, right?
Yes.
What
So
will
we
be
will
your
create,
indicators?
yeah. So in order to make this program successful and helping the governments um, to reach a goal in education, for example, I believe that I will conduct discussions with the government in order to set the criteria. But I believe one of the criteria would be the digital literacy rate in the rural parts of Indonesia, as well as school enrollment rates for higher education, as in like to university. Because until today, according to the data based on national statistics of Indonesia, there are only 9% of the total population in Indonesia that are able to finish or even enroll at higher education, which I believe that is an urgent problem that needs to be solved.
Now I'm going to ask you about why did you choose LPDP instead of other scholarships like such as Fulbright?
So the reason why I applied for LPDP is because firstly, it is a comprehensive scholarship because it will support me as a candidate in the master's degree abroad to reach my full potential, to maximize my experience there with the support from the LPDP foundations. Second of all, LPDP has a lot of awardees, which means I could expand my network, especially now that I'm building Shape Your Life Indonesia. I need to expand my network and to connect with other people who actually have maybe the same interest as me to ensure the rights to education for all. And lastly, I believe that LPDP has a value that I also value, which is to contribute back to its community, because I hold that value ever since I went to study abroad. I realized that even though I am studying abroad and having this opportunity, what does it mean if I could not create more students to be successful and to create impact to Indonesia? So I hold the same value that LPDP has.
Okay. So can you tell me what makes you different from other LPDP applicants? Why should we choose you?
I believe that even though I have not started working professionally, I'm a fresh graduate, but I already started my contributions for Indonesia by creating Shape Your Life Indonesia. Because in Shape Your Life Indonesia, I have gathered a community of students who study abroad who wants to contribute back to its community in creating a mentorship sessions, a one-on-one consultations in order to help maximize the potential of each students in Indonesia. And I believe that it is important because that is also in line with the Indonesian vision of 2045 to create or to produce competent human resources in the 21st world centuries.
So now, can you tell me about your greatest achievement?
Okay. During my undergraduate studies, I never thought that I would be competing in this international law competition since I am not a law student, but because my professor encouraged me, so I did. And so I applied and participate in international humanitarian law competition held by the International Committee of the Red Cross Japan. And we competed with top law schools around Japan. But even though so, we managed to won the competition as we win first prize, and we will be representing Japan to move on to the next stage, which is the regional rounds, where we will compete with other top law schools all around Asia. And it was very achieving for me as well as for the university, because this was our first time competing in the competition and also first time winning the competition as well. So our achievement has also been recognized by the university as well as the Japanese national daily news, as we are featured at one of the newspaper in Japan.
Okay. Can you tell me about your greatest strength?
Okay. I think my greatest strength has been resilient, because in life I did not always get what I want. I always faced with failures at first in order to achieve my goals. For example, when I was in high school wanting to study for higher education, I failed during my SNMPTN and both SBMPTN. It was very stressful because I could not imagine how would I continue my education. But because I'm resilient, I tried to look up for opportunities to study abroad with scholarship, and with my strong will and hard work, I studied hard to get my IELTS done and to get my essays as well as interview. So I get accepted to study at Ritsumeikan APU Japan with scholarship.
What is the biggest challenge you've ever faced with studying abroad?
I think my biggest challenge to study abroad has been language barrier, because I have studied abroad at Spain and Japan, where it does not speak English as their main language. I think language barrier has been the most challenging for me. But because I am an adaptive person, I always try to learn their language quickly in order to be able to socialize and connect with their community.
Can you tell me about your plan to adapt to the new cultures in United States?
Okay, so my plan to be able to adapt in the United States is, I think, firstly, I would like to surround myself with supportive friends or supportive circles. So every time I feel homesick, or every time I feel every time I face some challenges, I would be able to have courage from those circles surrounding me. Other than that, I believe that I am able to hold to my vision and value as Indonesian and as a Muslim abroad, since I have survived studying both in Spain and in Japan.
There's a lot of concerns nowadays for LPDP awardees who graduated from many good institutions abroad, that when they return to Indonesia, there will be a lack of facilities and funding for them to utilize their education properly. Do you agree with this statement, and what is your plan?
I think I would agree with the statement, because some companies or corporates in Indonesia might see master's graduate from abroad as overqualified for positions that they are offering, so they could not offer a good salary that would match the expectations of the graduates. But however, I don't think that it is a problem, because as a graduate from master's degree or undergraduate degree abroad, we are coming back to Indonesia with this abundance of knowledge that not everyone in Indonesia has. So I believe that with that knowledge and opportunity, as well as the skills that we already gained during our studies, we could instead create job opportunities for those who are needing. So we are the one who creates jobs in the future.
Okay, so can you describe your contribution to Indonesia?
I envision Indonesia to have a competent human resources in the future, not only those who came from big cities, but also those who came from small cities or even rural areas in Indonesia, to be a competent human resources in the future. So in order to do that, I plan to work together to push the governments in order to comply with the international human rights law that they have ratified in the first place, to ensure high quality education for all. And as education is progressing towards the advancement of technologies and skill demands are now more digital, I believe that I wanted to help create programs for the governments in order to produce a competent human resources in the future through Shape Your Life Indonesia.
Can you tell me about your preparations to make sure that you can graduate and graduate on time?
I believe that I have no problem in academics since I finished my undergraduate degree 3.5 years that is supposed to finish 4 years. So in my master's degree, I also wanted to plan out my study plan throughout my 2-year studies to finish all the credits before I graduate, for example, and to conduct a research project during my holiday or during my spring break at university. So when I write my thesis, I already am advanced with my progress, so I would finish it on time.
Well, are you sure there will be no other activities during your spring break that may disrupt or delay your research?
Okay, so for now, I don't have any plans for my spring break yet. But even if I do, I would like to prioritize my research first, because it is my priority as a student to finish my studies. And even if I also have another activities, I believe that I would be able to manage my time very well or optimally, because the spring breaks are 3 to 4 months. So I would like to maximize those holidays doing my research, as well as maybe some other activities that I would not expect this time.
Okay, so what do you think about LPDP awardees who have studied abroad and they do not return to Indonesia afterwards?
Okay. So I believe as a student that study abroad, there are a lot of opportunities that wait for us in the future as a future graduates abroad. But however, I believe that as Indonesian, we should always remember our roots, where we came from, which is Indonesia. So I believe that for me, I have always been contribute back to my community, to Indonesia, even when I studied abroad. Like, for example, when I was in Spain, I worked together with the Embassy of Indonesia in Madrid, where I introduced Indonesian culture through traditional dances. And in Japan, I became the president of the PPI in my university, where I created programs to maximize the potential of Indonesian who study abroad. So for me, I would like to always contribute my knowledge, my skills, or even the opportunities that I have to Indonesia. And especially if it's LPDP awardee, I think it became our responsibility to come back to Indonesia and contribute back to Indonesia. So I believe that I think it is I think it is kind of selfish for them to not come back to Indonesia because they've been raised or they are born in Indonesia, so they has to build back the country in order to be better or to develop its country.
Okay. Can you tell me about your long-term career plan?
Okay. So as an education advocate, my long-term career plan is to work in the UNICEF. And in the long term, I aim for the position to become the executive director of UNICEF. Who knows, I might be the first Indonesian who could be the executive director in UNICEF. I believe that working in UNICEF is in line with the goals that I'm doing right now, which is to ensure every child to get quality education. And other than that, as the representative of Indonesia in the international organizations, I believe that I would have the opportunities to talk about the current problems that Indonesia is currently facing in the context of educations, where I could have the opportunity to bring that discussions on the table, to bring the attentions of all the member states in the UN, and to come up with a solutions or a policy that could actually be implementable for developing countries.
What do you think will be the biggest challenge you face in order to achieve your future goal? And how do you plan to overcome it?
Okay. I think one of the biggest challenges to me right now is, of course, the knowledge, especially now that I am developing Shape Your Life Indonesia to ensure education rights for all. I am very lacking in the human rights knowledge, because in my undergraduate studies, I am only offered 2 credits of human rights courses, which is very broad and very broad. So I believe that I need to study more in depth about human rights, especially in the socio-economic rights, and specifically in the human rights advocacy. And so that's why I am taking my master's degree in the Human Rights Studies program at Columbia University. Other than that, the other challenge to develop Shape Your Life in Indonesia has been funding. As a nonprofit organization, our challenge would be funding. But however, we have successfully get financial grant from Ritsumeikan APU at 2020. And right now, we receive financial grant from XL Axiata as well.
Okay, well, that's very good. I wish you the best of luck with your LPDP application. I think before I end this interview, can you give me a closing statement?
Okay, thank you very much, Ma'am Celine, for your time to the interview today. To close our interview today, I would like to convey that I believe that I am a deserving candidate for this LPDP scholarship, because I have an outstanding academics, and I also have a big cause to contribute for Indonesia. And as you may know, I already started my contribution even before I received this LPDP scholarship. So this LPDP scholarship would even support me to expand my impact for a better Indonesia in the future. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Fathia.
Thank you.
Oke, jadi tadi itu adalah simulasi wawancara LPDP yang udah aku buat semirip mungkin. Bedanya adalah wawancaranya kali ini hanya satu orang, yaitu aku, di mana biasanya saat seleksi LPDP pewawancaranya akan ada 2 orang, yaitu 1 orang akademisi dan 1 orang psikolog. Kalau untuk pertanyaannya sendiri ini berdasarkan pengalamanku juga di tahun lalu. Jadi ini adalah pertanyaan yang ditanyakan ke aku. Jadi kalian juga bisa dicatat pertanyaan ini dan juga disiapkan jawaban-jawabannya. Selain itu, jika kalian mau mempersiapkan diri untuk wawancara LPDP, aku ada beberapa video lain di channel YouTubeku, kalian bisa cek juga. Jangan lupa like, subscribe, and I'll see you in my next video.